By 8 in the morning, Graham Carter was already pounding on my door as if the world were ending. The sound jolted me upright, and before I even reached the hallway, he shouted my name through the wood. "Marin, open the door right now." I cracked it open, and his face rushed toward me. Pale and frantic, every bill bounced. He said, barely catching his breath, "The utilities, the daycare, the insurance, everything. What did you do?" His panic might have rattled another woman, but at 71, I had lived through storms far louder than a desperate man on my porch. I held the door steady and answered him plainly. "I canceled every payment, all of them." He blinked hard, as if the words didn't land the first time. "Why would you do that?" "Tessa said you would help. She said you knew we were struggling." Struggling. That was the word my daughter had used, soft as sympathy when she typed it out 1 week earlier. I believed her then. I always did. But the truth had arrived in a way she did not expect. 32 bright pictures arranged perfectly on her social media page. Gifts stacked high for the grandchildren of her mother-in-law, designer toys, monogrammed clothing, electronics still wrapped in silver paper. Not one thing for my own grandchildren. Not one mention of me. I looked at Graham now, still trembling on my porch in Portland, Maine, and felt nothing sharp or wild inside me. Only clarity. "If you want to know what pushed me to do it," I said quietly, "you're not ready for the part where my daughter chose her mother-in-law's family over her own." He stared at me, stunned, the wind carrying his breath in short clouds. I did not invite him in. I did not soften the moment. Some truths do not bend, no matter who stands in front of you. What Graham did not understand, what Tessa never imagined, was that this choice began long before this morning. And to explain it, I need to go back to the message she sent me 1 week earlier, the one that broke the last thread I had been holding. The message arrived while I was making tea, the phone vibrating softly against the kitchen table. Tessa's name lit the screen, and for a moment I felt that familiar flicker of hope. I opened it quickly. "No gifts this year. Money's tight. We're struggling." I read it twice, then a third time, letting the words settle in. I believed her instantly. I always had. Even after 71 years of learning when someone's voice wavered, or when a sentence hid more than it showed. I never applied that knowledge to my own child. I typed back, "Of course. Sweetheart, do what you need to do. We will make it simple this year." She replied with a short thank you. Nothing more. I stood there in my small kitchen on Munjoy Hill, feeling the mix of love and ache that had lived inside me since Tessa married Graham Carter. Their life shifted quickly into a world I did not understand. Graham's mother, Eloise, seemed to take the lead in shaping how holidays should look, what families should wear, what effort counted. She never said anything unkind, but her compliments toward Tessa always carried a quiet edge, as if she were polishing her into someone she approved of. Little by little, the distance grew. Phone calls became shorter. Visits required scheduling around Eloise's plans. I tried not to read into it. Tried not to imagine the ways I was being replaced. I told myself Tessa was busy, overwhelmed, doing her best. When she texted again that afternoon, her tone was lighter. "We might do Christmas at Eloise's this year. She wants to host something elegant." I stared at the words longer than I needed to. I typed, "That sounds lovely," even though my chest tightened. She sent a small heart emoji and nothing else. I set the phone down, steadying myself with a slow breath. Her message about money stayed with me, heavier than it should have been. Something in the way she said it, something in what she left out, pressed against a part of me I had tried for years not to disturb. The morning after Tessa's message, I opened my phone to a photo of her freshly done nails, pale pink with tiny gold flecks. She captioned it, "A little self-care never hurts." I stared at it longer than I intended, telling myself a manicure was harmless. that people treated themselves even when money was tight. Later that afternoon, another story appeared, this time a boutique shopping bag resting on the passenger seat of her car. The logo belonged to a shop where even the scarves were priced beyond my comfort. She did not explain it, did not tag anyone. It was simply there, unmistakable. That evening, she posted a photo of a restaurant check folded neatly beside a glass of wine. I knew the place. I had eaten there once, years ago, when my husband was still alive and we wanted to feel extravagant. Seeing it now made something small twist inside my chest. When Graham called, his tone was breezy. "We might need your help just for this month," he said. "Things are a little tight." I answered the way I always had. "All right, just tell me what needs covering." He thanked me quickly, almost too quickly, and ended the call. A memory surfaced, uninvited. Eloise standing beside me at one of those early family gatherings, her smile polite and polished. She watched Tessa arrange the plates and murmured, "She tries so hard to keep up. You raised her modestly, but she is learning." At the time, I let it slide, unsure whether it was a compliment or something else entirely. A few days later, I met Rowan Hale for coffee. She listened quietly as I recounted the manicure, the boutique bag, the restaurant. Rowan folded her hands and asked, "Why does your daughter never choose you on holidays?" Marin. The words landed harder than she meant them to. I opened my mouth, but nothing honest came out. By the time I walked home that afternoon, a heavy clarity had started forming beneath everything I had tried so hard not to see. The notification came while I was folding towels. A soft chime that barely broke the quiet of the room. I glanced at my phone and saw the words, "Tessa added 32 new photos." For a moment, I smiled, thinking maybe she had taken pictures of the kids or a family moment she wanted to share. I opened the album, and the smile disappeared before it fully formed. The first image showed designer toys stacked in bright, towering piles. The next displayed personalized backpacks embroidered with names that were not my grandchildren's. Then rows of luxury electronics, shiny and unopened, each one expensive enough to make my breath catch. Every photo carried labels from high-end boutiques scattered across Portland, places I had only ever walked past on my way to more modest stores. I swiped again and again, each picture hitting harder than I reached the caption. "For my sweet grandbabies, Finn and Darcy deserve the world." My chest tightened as if someone had placed a hand around it. Finn and Darcy were Eloise Carter's grandchildren, not mine. Not once did Tessa mention her own children. Not once did she hint that she wished she could do the same for them. Another notification popped up under the album. Eloise had commented, "You outdid yourself, Tessa. The kids are so lucky to have you." The words stung more than the photos. They felt rehearsed, public, meant to be seen by a circle I did not belong to. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. This was not anger. Not yet. It was the moment something long avoided finally cracked open, the moment denial stopped holding its shape. I forwarded one picture to Rowan without a caption. She called me almost immediately. "Marin, she lied to you," Rowan said, her voice firm but gentle. "She lied because she knew you would say yes." I sat down slowly, the phone warm in my hand, and let the truth settle into the space I had protected for far too long. I sat at my old wooden desk, the one my husband and I bought when we first moved to Portland, and opened my financial dashboard. The screen loaded slowly, as if it understood what I was about to see and wanted to spare me a few more seconds. The first line appeared: utilities for Tessa and Graham's house, paid on the 1st of every month, then insurance, then daycare, then the medical card I had agreed to cover just until things leveled out, then the car maintenance plan Graham swore was temporary. Scrolling felt like peeling back layers of denial. Not one of these charges had been paused. Some had quietly increased. The short-term help I agreed to 5 years ago had grown into a system no one intended to change. Least of all, the people benefiting from it. Halfway down the list, a charge I did not recognize stopped me cold. A retail account, auto-drafted for 2 years straight. I clicked the details and saw Tessa's name beside mine. I had never given permission for that. I stared at the screen, heat rising in my chest. It was not anger at first, just shame that I had let this go on. Guilt that I had taught my daughter I would never say no. Exhaustion from carrying a responsibility no one acknowledged. My phone buzzed. Rowan's name appeared. I answered without thinking. "What did you find?" she asked. "More than I wanted to," I said. "Things I did not agree to." Rowan's voice softened. "Marin, you are allowed to stop paying for your own erasure." I closed my eyes. For years I had told myself they needed me. For years I had convinced myself that helping was the same as loving. But sitting there at that desk, scrolling through proof of how far things had gone, I felt something shift inside me. Not loudly, not angrily. Just enough to make space for a decision I should have made long ago. I was done being the safety net no one bothered to look down at. I reopened the financial dashboard and placed my hand on the mouse. Steadying myself, my pulse felt slow, deliberate, as if my body already knew what my mind had spent days avoiding. I clicked on the first auto payment. "Cancel," the system asked. "Are you sure?" "Confirm." The next line appeared. I clicked again. "Cancel. Are you sure?" "Confirm." 7 years of quiet responsibility began disappearing one line at a time. Utilities. Confirm. Insurance. Confirm. Daycare. Confirm. Medical card. Confirm. Car plan. Confirm. The pattern was so familiar it frightened me how easily these payments had blended into the background of my life. How rarely anyone thanked me. How steadily they grew by the 10th cancellation. My breathing no longer trembled. Something inside me was adjusting, aligning, settling into place. Then I saw a charge near the bottom of the list, a boutique store I had never purchased from. I clicked the details and felt my throat tighten. The payment had been split between Tessa's card and a secondary card linked to my account. A backup I had forgotten existed. I whispered. She used mine. Not in anger, but in a sadness that had no room left to expand. I scrolled back to the top and continued. Cancel, confirm, cancel, confirm. With each completed action, sadness thinned into clarity, and clarity straightened into something firmer. By the time I reached the last entry, my hand no longer shook. "No more," I said quietly. The words did not echo, they landed. A moment later, a series of emails appeared in my inbox. Failed transactions, declined attempts, notices from the bank, listing payments I had unknowingly carried for far too long. I closed the laptop gently, letting the silence settle around me. It was not triumphant. It was not loud. It was simply the sound of a life I had stopped holding up on my own. The pounding started before the sun had finished climbing up over the roofs on Munjoy Hill. I knew that kind of knocking desperate, frantic. The sound of someone who believed the world owed him an answer. I opened the door, and Graham nearly stumbled inside. "Marin, what did you do?" His voice cracked as he pushed his hands through his hair. "Daycare turned us away this morning. Utilities are overdue. The insurance payment bounced. Eloise is furious. She says we embarrassed her." I let him speak until he ran out of breath. His panic filled the doorway the same way smoke fills a room thick, disorienting, demanding attention. When he finally stopped, I folded my hands in front of me. "I did not stop helping," I said quietly. "I stopped being used." Graham blinked hard, his chest rising and falling in shallow bursts. "Tessa said you knew we were struggling. She said you understood. I understood. I replied, until I saw the thousands spent on gifts for Eloise's grandchildren, until I realized the bills I covered every month were not necessities to you anymore, they were conveniences. He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. You do not understand the pressure she is under. Eloise expects things. She wants the kids to have a certain image. Tessa feels she has to present well. The words landed with a dull thud. At my expense, I asked. Graham looked away, jaw tightening. His silence confirmed more than an admission would have. I stepped back from the doorway, giving us both a little space. I have carried your household for years. Not once did either of you ask if it was sustainable for a 71-year-old widow. You assumed it was endless. He let out a weak exhale. Something between defeat and confusion. Tessa is going to lose her mind when she hears what you did. She will hear the truth, I said, not the version she tells to make herself feel righteous. Graham nodded once, unable to meet my eyes. Then he walked down the steps, slower than he had climbed them, as if the weight he carried no longer had anywhere to go but down. Tessa called less than an hour after Graham left. She did not even let me finish saying hello. What did you do? Her voice shook with anger. You humiliated us. Eloise thinks I am irresponsible. She thinks I cannot manage my own household. I held the phone to my ear, feeling every word hit like a stone. Tessa, I said, I did not humiliate you. You absolutely did, she snapped. Daycare called Graham. The utility company sent a notice. Eloise saw the messages. She thinks I am incapable. And this is the worst possible time for her to think that. I let her rant, the familiar rhythm of her frustration filling the line. When she paused long enough for me to speak, I kept my voice steady. I did not humiliate you. I repeated, you did that when you lied. There was a sharp inhale on her end. I never lied. You told me you were struggling. I said, and then you bought designer gifts for Eloise's grandchildren. You told me money was tight, but you were eating at expensive restaurants. You asked me to help just for this month. But the payments never stopped. That is not lying, she insisted. You do not understand the pressure I am under. Eloise expects certain things. Her grandchildren expect certain things. If I don't show up in the right way, she makes comments. She makes Graham feel inadequate, and I am the one who pays the price. I cut in. She went silent for a moment. Then she said, softer, but far more dangerous. I told Eloise you refused to be involved because I did not want her judging you. I did not want her thinking you could not contribute. Her admission settled like cold water down my spine. So you told her I refused, I said. You told her I chose not to be part of your life. I had to, she whispered. It was easier than explaining everything. My chest tightened, but my words came out clear. I will not fund the life where I do not exist. She let out a shaky breath, but she did not argue. For the first time, the silence between us felt like something she did not know how to escape. The first email from the bank arrived early the next morning, then a second, then 3 more. Each one listed transactions that required verification, vague charges, inconsistent authorizations, purchases split between cards that should never have been linked. Within an hour, a formal notice appeared stating that an administrative review had begun. By noon, my phone rang again. This time it was Graham. His voice had lost all the frantic sharpness from earlier. They flagged everything, he said. Every charge they cannot clearly trace. They want statements. They want explanations. Eloise is furious. What did she say, I asked? That Tessa has mismanaged appearances, he replied. The words brittle. She thinks the photos made her look reckless. She says this could embarrass the family. I almost laughed at the irony. Public image mattered more to Eloise than the truth ever had. That afternoon, someone knocked on my door again, but it was a far gentler sound than before. When I opened it, Graham stood there holding a small card made of construction paper. Finn's handwriting stretched across the front. Grandma Marin, we miss you. I took it slowly, the edges soft from a child's grip. Thank you, I said. He made it this morning, Graham murmured. He does not understand what is happening. Neither does Darcy. They keep asking why you have not visited. The bitterness I had been carrying loosened. Just a little. They are not at fault. I said, none of this is theirs. Graham nodded, eyes tired. What happens now? I will tell you what I told Tessa, I said. If there is going to be any relationship moving forward, it will happen with boundaries. Real ones. And both of you will attend financial counseling before I consider reconnecting. He looked down at the card, then back at me, if that is what it takes. After he left, I sat at my desk and pulled out a folder I had avoided for years. I wrote a revised will, clear and simple. Restitution before inheritance. Accountability before trust. When I put the pen down, I felt the smallest shift inside me quiet, steady, and long overdue. The bank called 3 days after the review began. The representative spoke carefully, as if choosing each word mattered. Mrs. Hollis, the charges traced to your secondary card include luxury purchases made over the past 2 months. Because you did not authorize them, they qualify as misuse. We will be sending formal documentation. I thanked him and hung up slowly. The truth was now written in ink, not suspicion. By the end of the week, the fallout spread wider than even I expected. Eloise Carter received a notice from the charity board she sat on. An investigation found she had co-signed several transactions without proper verification. For appearance's sake, she had written in a memo. The board voted to remove her. According to Graham, she did not take it well. Graham himself faced an internal audit at work. Too many transfers moved between personal and shared accounts. Some routed through his business card. I did not know half of this was happening. He told me when he stopped by. Shoulders slumped. I should have paid more attention. Tessa's letter arrived the next morning. A formal envelope from the bank. Restitution orders. A mandatory financial counseling program. A note that any further misuse would lead to legal escalation. She called an hour later, her voice small. Mom, what do I do? You follow the instructions. I said, and you learn from them. I rewrote my will that same afternoon. Her name remained, but it sat beside 2 conditions: restitution completed and 1 full year of consistent, respectful contact, not performative, not convenient, real. The twist came quietly. Graham sent a video of Finn and Darcy at their kitchen table, surrounded by wrapping paper. Darcy looked into the camera. Why is Grandma Marin not coming for Christmas? She asked. No one answered her. The silence in the clip told its own story. That night, I took the recovered funds, small amounts collected from canceled payments and returned charges, and opened a scholarship folder for my biological grandchildren, a seed for something lasting, something honest. Rowan sat with me while I sealed the final envelope. You look different, she said softly. I feel different, I answered. This year, I did not lose a daughter, I gained myself. If you felt every step of this story with me, remember to like, comment, or subscribe so you do not miss the next one.